So just because you got that nice Benz or that nice fancy car, that foreign, baby, that is not an asset. That's a liability. That is a liability. And is not doing anything but taking money out of your pocket. And I'm stressing on this a lot because as young people, we are so enticed and infatuated with nice things and things that look nice. And I'm not saying that I don't like things, I don't like nice things, but there are a time, a place, and a season for all of that. I believe that, and they talk about it in this book, your assets should pay for your liabilities. Get your water and keep some wine. I should have had some wine.
With exposure, execution, and consistency, there is nothing you can't do. Just keep planting.
Hey y'all, I am Ch.2, the responsible homegirl, and this is a space that I have created to help young adults become financially responsible and wealth conscious. So if you are new here, welcome, welcome. We are on part 3 of the series, Developing Your Rich Mindset, which is based off of one of my favorite personal finance books, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So if somebody sent you this video or it just kind of popped up on your feed or something, I do want to encourage you to go back and watch the first 2 videos because it is a 4-part series where we are just talking about the importance of developing your rich mindset. Because I can tell you all day and all night, do this, do that, create this budget, invest in this, invest in that. Like, you need to have this if you're in your 20 somethings. But none of that stuff really matters if you don't have the mindset. If you don't have the abundant mindset, the money mindset, the rich mindset. So this 4-part series is meant to be a way to kind of combat like any of those negative thoughts that you may have about money, or even shift some of the thoughts that you have about money. And hopefully through this series, I can articulate very well what's in this book. You still do need to read it because it's one of those foundational like things that really helps you out good. But I understand that everybody is not a reader. Everybody probably won't read this book, but at least you can get some commentary from me on my end. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're on part 3, but it's based off of chapter 2, which is why teach financial literacy. And the theme of today's podcast episode is what you don't know will hurt you. Period. I know a lot of us, we have heard that thing before. Oh, what you don't know can't hurt you. I mean, I don't have to tell them everything, or they don't need to know all this, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you what you don't know will in fact hurt you. And if we're talking about in the space of financial education, personal finance, almost definitely. The Kiani 3 years ago who was facing eviction, who had blew through her $7,000 refund check, who was living paycheck to paycheck. What do you mean? What I don't know won't hurt me? I needed somebody to sit me down and say, Kiani, this is how you create a budget. Kiani, this is how you manage your money. Kiani, are you even building your credit? Like, what's going on, sis? So that is the theme of today's podcast episode. And as I get into my highlights and my commentary from chapter 2 called Why Teach Financial Literacy, you will definitely understand why. So let's dig right into it. So on this first page of chapter 2, it says, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And if you are a faithful listener of the Responsible Homegirl, a faithful supporter, you know that that is something that I always say. And I'm 100% sure that I got it from this book because it's so true. Like, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. If it was about what you make, we will have people making 6 figures but not living paycheck to paycheck. And we all know that that is not true. Like, it's literally an article that's going around that says 60% of millennials who earn over 6 figures, they say that they're living paycheck to paycheck. And I promise you, it is not because of a lack of money. Because although inflation is like, steadily increasing, the cost of living is high, like, if you can't live off of 6 figures, like, something is really, really, really wrong. So that just tells me that it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. So starting off on page 77, he says, I'm concerned that too many people are too focused on money and not on their greatest wealth, their education. Mm, 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 mm. Y'all, that is so good. That is so good. I want to read that again. I am concerned that too many people are too focused on money and not on their greatest wealth, their education. And that leads into a chapter later on down the line. I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast or YouTube. We'll talk about it in the Patreon because y'all know this 4-part series. This is the only thing that's going on the podcast. I'm going to finish out the book and the commentary and everything inside of the Patreon. But he has a book. I'm not a book. He has a chapter later on in the book called Don't Work for Money, Work to Learn. And baby, this hits it like literally right on the head. Right on the head. But let me continue reading. If people are prepared to be flexible, keep an open mind, and learn, they will grow richer and richer despite tough changes. If they think money will solve problems, they will have a rough ride. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Let me say that again. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. Get me. Miss Kiani went to school debt-free, no student loans, refund checks every single semester between $5,000 and $7,000 with no financial intelligence. And where is that money? At the nail salon, at restaurants, at Forever 21, at H&M, with absolutely nothing to show for it. So you cannot tell me what's written in this book is not true. Okay? I'm gonna just leave that there. Next. It is not how much money you make. It is how much money you keep. I'm going to just reiterate that again because that was highlighted. But that literally probably should have been the theme. But still, what you don't know will indeed hurt you. Okay? Next highlight. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. This is why I am so passionate about sharing financial education and sharing the basics. I know sometimes we want to just know more about investing in the stock market, investing in real estate, just doing all of the fancy stuff. But I promise you, without a solid foundation, y'all, that stuff means nothing. That's why you have entrepreneurs out here who make a whole lot of money in their business, but they still struggle financially because they don't have financial intelligence. And business intelligence and financial intelligence is two different things. This is why you have high earning employees and high earning athletes and high earning celebrities and just high earning people, period. High earning people, period. And they struggle financially because they don't have the financial intelligence. Just because you have a lot of money does not mean that you know what it is to do with the money. Okay, let me keep going. My next highlight, page 80. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. So in this book, they talk heavy about knowing the difference between an asset and a liability. And just to keep it plain and simple, just like they talk about in this book, an asset versus a liability. Like, that's your foundation. You need to know the difference between the two, because a lot of people, they never invest in assets and they just invest in a whole lot of liabilities that they think are assets and they're not. So an asset, what is an asset, Kiani? An asset is something of value and it puts money into your pocket. What is a liability? A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So just to give you some blanket examples, a blanket example of an asset would be like an income producing business, a stock, a brokerage account, a savings account. Those are things that you own, they have value, they put money into your pocket. On the flip side, a liability would be like your student loan debt, your credit card debt, your car debt. These things that consistently take money out of your pocket. Those are liabilities. So just because you got that nice Benz or that nice fancy car, that foreign, baby, that is not an asset. That's a liability. That is a liability. And it's not doing anything but taking money out of your pocket. And I'm stressing on this a lot because as young people, we are so enticed and infatuated with nice things and things that look nice. And I'm not saying that I don't like nice things, but there are a time, a place, and a season for all of that. I believe that, and they talk about it in this book, your assets should pay for your liabilities. You should not be going to work, earning your income, working hard, just to pay for liabilities. No, it is a funnel. It's a channel. It's a flow. Income, expenses, assets, liabilities. Income, expenses, assets, liabilities. because the more you invest in the more you invest in your assets, the more money you will eventually make. Okay? But let me keep going because I kind of went off on a tangent and kind of got ahead of myself, but let's keep going. So, like I said before, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket, whether you work on it or not. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. This is really all you need to know. Like, keep it plain, keep it simple. Asset versus liability. If you want to be rich, simply spend your life buying or building assets. I'm gonna read that one more time. If you want to be rich, simply spend your life buying or building assets. If you want to be poor or middle class, spend your life buying liabilities. Something that we all know how to do very well. So I want to harp on or take a lot of this time during this podcast episodes to just talk a lot about assets and the importance of why you need to invest in assets and assets that you can invest in right now. I don't care if you make $30,000 a year or whatever. It's not about what you make; it's about what you keep. But we got to train our brain to take our income and turn our income into assets instead of taking our income and spending it on liabilities. Students leave school without financial skills. Millions of educated people pursue their profession successfully, but later find themselves struggling financially. They work hard, they work harder, but don't get ahead. What is missing from their education is not how to make money, but how to manage their money. Something that we talked about earlier. It's not about what you have, but it's about what you keep. Rich Dad, he starts really in this chapter explaining the difference between assets and liabilities, and he gets to a place where he's explaining why the rich get richer and why the poor and middle class continues to get poorer. And I want to kind of read his insight and advice on this. So he says, a review of my rich dad's financial statement shows why the rich get richer. The asset column generates more than enough income to cover expenses, with the balance reinvested into the assets column. The asset column continues to grow, and therefore the income it produces grows with it. The result is that the rich get richer. So when you hear people say the rich get richer, what they're basically saying is the things that they invest in is making them more money. So not only do they have income coming in, but now they have all of these other little things that are also bringing in income that covers their expenses. So now you're left with all of this extra money that like don't necessarily have to go to bills or don't have to go to liabilities. And that's kind of where the the poor class and the middle class, they get it wrong because they don't have any assets, because they are not investing in ways to make them more money. They are continuing to work hard, work hard, work hard, but their money is going to paying for their liabilities, not creating more income. So the difference between the rich getting richer, poor getting poorer is the rich, they have their money creating more money. The poor, the middle class, they have their money and they're not creating more money. They're paying for stuff. So you have money, creating more money, paying for stuff. Then you have money, paying for stuff. You're missing that piece of creating more money. So why the middle class struggle? The middle class finds itself in a constant state of financial struggle. Their primary income is through their salary, so through their job, which is nothing wrong with that. As their wages increases, so do their taxes. Their expenses tend to increase as well. Lifestyle inflation, we talked about that on the last podcast episode. Go back and watch it if you didn't get it. And lifestyle inflation is basically you make more money, so now you're spending more money, you have more things, so your lifestyle is inflating with your money. Their expenses tend to increase in proportion to their salary increase. Hence the phrase, the rat race. They treat their home as their primary asset instead of investing in income producing assets. So moving right along to the next highlight. As I said at the start of this section, the most important rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability. Once you understand the difference, concentrate your efforts on investing in income generating assets. So assets that are going to bring money into your pocket. That's the best way to get started on your path to becoming rich. Keep doing that and your asset column will grow. So continue to find ways to invest in this asset column, and over time it will grow, grow, grow. Keep your liabilities and your expenses down. So those monthly bills that I be telling y'all about, all of those subscriptions and stuff that are not really necessary, keep your eye on that stuff, because if you can cut back, cut back. Keep your liabilities low as well. Do you absolutely need a new car, or is the car that you're driving fine, but getting kind of caught up in the trap of instant gratification. Let's talk about it, okay? You want to keep your expenses and your liabilities as low as possible, especially while you are in the building stages and you get to a place where your assets can pay for your liabilities. So this next point is really important because I feel like a lot of us, we focus a lot on how can we get more money? How can we increase our income instead of how can we mind our own business? And he talks about in this book that minding your own business is focusing your efforts on acquiring assets. So how can you take your income and investing into assets, investing into things that's going to bring you more money? How can you create more income, basically? Create more income that you don't necessarily have to work for. Create just more income that's just going to work for you. How can you put your money to work, basically? So focusing your efforts on acquiring your assets instead of a bigger paycheck. How do you set your goals? Most people must keep their job and rely on their wages to fund their acquisition of assets. So he's basically explaining that you go to work and the income that you get from your job, you pay your bills, and then you also have another responsibility, which is to buy assets. So when I say there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a job, is nothing wrong with having a job because you kind of got to look at your job differently. You got to look at your job as an investor. So it's like a mindset shift. Like we can't just go to work, pay our bills, and then splurge. No, you got another responsibility. Go to work, pay yourself first, save, pay your bills, of course, and then figure out ways that you can consistently invest in income producing assets. So yes, that's the overall theme of part 3 of why financial literacy is important. One of the most major things that you need to learn is the difference between an asset and a liability. Take your income, turn it into assets, and as you get that foundational key like down pat, now you have like the know-how to say, okay, I'm not about to just get paid and just pay my bills. Like, no, I have more things to do. And in the last and final part 4 of this series, we're going to get into what it actually looks like. Like, what are good examples of assets? What are good examples of liabilities? How can you start investing in those today? And how can really like turn your personal finance situation up a notch? Like, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be a millionaire tomorrow, but these small money habits that you are developing and building right now, I promise you are going to set you like so far apart. And the reason why I have the mindset that I have is because of this book. It's because that I'm playing the long game and not, just falling victim to instant gratification. Everything in me wants to move out right now. Everything in me wants to go get an apartment right now. But it's just like, Kiani, why? Why go get an apartment when you can build your financial foundation, where you can save, where you can live at home? Why? I have dreams of, and like, I don't even want to call it a dream. It's more so a goal. Like, it's going to happen. When I move out, I'm going to buy me a multi-family property. Period. Live in one side, rent out the other side, and live mortgage free. And it may not even be a duplex. It might be a triplex or a quadplex. But had I not have the education of find you some assets to invest in, what's something that can bring you some money? What's something that can bring you some value and put money into your pocket? So I kind of want to leave y'all with that question lingering, and answer for me in the comments below. What is an asset that you are going to focus on? How are you going to essentially mind your own business? If you want to continue the conversation, where the conversation is going to be continued, join our Patreon, where we are going to dig deeper into this, and I can give you feedback, I can give you insight on what it is that you're even thinking about. But thank y'all so much for rocking with me, and I will see you on the next podcast episode for part 4 of the series, the last and final series of developing your rich mindset. Share this with your homegirls and your homeboys. I promise you it's going to be life-changing for them. And like I always tell you, with exposure, execution, and consistency, there is absolutely nothing you can't do. So I'll see y'all on the next episode.